Sunday, 6th of August 2017, 5:15 a.m. This is St Chiaras' house. Nearly 800 years ago, on Palm Sunday, she walked all the way from her home out here, along with her friends and family, towards San Damiano, outside the city walls of Assisi, leaving her friends, family, money, social status, power, her own desires behind, and met with Saint Francis at the Portinicula, where she cut her hair and was given the robes of the friars and was consecrated to God. O God, please also help me to be able to consecrate myself to yourself like St Chiara did 800 years ago. St Chiara, pray for us. St Chiara, help us. St Chiara, teach us. St Chiara, guide us. St Chiara, protect us. Walking on the way to San Damiano through the streets of Assisi. It's quite dark and quiet, and it's a good 1 hour walk away. I wonder what St Chiara felt. Was it full of joy or sadness or excitement, looking forward to the future? She was the one who said yes to God, like Mary did at the Annunciation. If a single grain of wheat falls to the ground and does not die to itself, it remains but a single grain of wheat. But if it dies, it yields a rich harvest. This is what St Chiara did. She fell to the ground and died and became fruitful, and she became St Chiara. And she helped and supported Saint Francis on the way, and Saint Francis achieved great heights because of her. In a very crude way, she was Mary and Saint Francis was Martha. Because of her, we have the Sisters of Clare, or the Poor Sisters of Clare. With convents and sisters throughout the world who, after 800 years, are still doing sterling work. This is the communal plaza. She must have spent many happy times here. and she's leaving all that behind on a great spiritual adventure. She must have passed St. Francis's house and must have known all of St. Francis's story too. It's cool now, slightly light, and must be around 20 degrees Celsius. I can feel the wind on my skin, and this is the same wind that St. Francis and St. Clare and all those original friars felt on the skin as they walked through the streets of Assisi nearly 800 years ago. And the houses are also the same, and the feet that my feet that are tramping on the grounds on the streets of Assisi are the same that they trod on 800 years ago. And all the plants and trees are the descendants of those plants and trees that they saw 800 years ago. And all the creatures, birds and animals are also the descendants of those birds and animals from 800 years ago. The scenery in front of me, which I'm seeing at the moment, must be the same sight that greeted their eyes 800 years ago. I wonder what St. Clare's emotions were like. But a short 18 years of prayer life must have been a novitiate. She must have had a very prayerful life and inclined to God at a very young age. And hearing and speaking to St. Francis, whom she understood very well, growing in the same cultural milieu, it must have been very easy to be directed by him. And in a way, St. Francis acted as a catalyst for her complete conversion over to God. The God started the process, but St. Francis probably was a catalyst which enabled her to direct her feet towards San Damiano and be concentrated to God. But during her journey, I just wonder what sort of emotions she had. Was she happy? Was she sad? Was she happy that she was moving towards union with God? Or was she sad that she was leaving her friends and family behind and knew that she would never bear children? There must have been a tug of war going on inside her mind. but the call of God overpowered her other desires. As she walked through the streets of Assisi, was she anxious that other people would see her and take her physically back? Was she anxious that her family, especially the men folk, would seize her and take her back? She must have been anxious that even amongst her own family and friends and servants, there could have been someone who would have betrayed her back into the hands of her family friends, and her dreams of a consecrated life would have been nipped in the bud even before it started. Was she sad at leaving her family and friends behind? Was she sad at breaking her sisters' hearts and breaking her mother's heart? And I wonder how she dealt with it. Was she very firm and resolute in going towards her goal, or did she waver at all? As she walked through the streets of Assisi on that fateful day, did she notice her surroundings at all? Or was she just locked on to San Damiano, St. Francis, and the consecrated life as a deer that is caught in the headlights of a car? With each step she took from her family home towards San Damiano, sorry, it's not the San Damiano, but it is the Portinicula, the basilica of Saint Mary of the Angels. Did a desire for the consecrated life increase more, and the desire for the family worldly life decrease less? Negotiating through the streets of Assisi, did she make frequent stops, or did she just walk on? Did she cry? And were they tears of joy, or were they tears of happiness? Was she breathless? Did she have palpitations? Did she feel a bit sweaty? I wonder what her physical status was like, and I wonder what her mental status was like. While journeying thus, did she converse with her friends and family? Or did she keep silent? And I wonder what the emotional status of her family and friends were like. Were they all quiet? Or were they talking to themselves? Were they happy? Were they sad? Were they crying? And I wonder how it affected St Chiara. This 18-year-old girl must have been an amazing person. And this was the start of the journey for her that would lead her to establishing the community of the Poor Clares. And not only did she get other ladies to join her, breaking down the class system of its day, but she somehow inspired her blood relatives, her mother, and her sisters and her cousins to join her. So now there is a community which was initially centered around her mother in a family home, and now there is a new community centered around Mother Mary in San Damiano, comprising of Saint Clare, her mother, her sisters, her nieces, and other members of Assisi. So she gathered all these ladies around Mother Mary, and ultimately Mother Mary leads us to Christ. And this is what exactly she does. She gathers all people around her, and because her heart is with the Madonna and Child, the people gathered around her are also gathered around the Madonna and the Child. She is about to leave the gates of Assisi with all its connotations of family, friends, money, power, social status, comfort, security, a good marriage, children, and a good future. And she's going to go outside the city walls of Assisi, which was insecure, into the unknown, and in a way there was nothing for her. It was St. Francis and the Portinicula, which is, as St. Francis said, a piece of heaven and earth towards which she walked all the way to did she feel sad? Did she feel happy? Did she feel a sense of relief? Or was a bit unsettled as she approached the city gates of Assisi? Did her family and friends try to dissuade her even at that last moment before she left the gates of Assisi? This is the gates of Assisi, and I wonder if she left through this particular door from a comfort and security into a dangerous place outside. Maybe it is so in our lives too. Once we leave the comfort and security of our lives behind and into the darkness and wilderness, it is there where we find God. When work and life squeezes us and we are forced out into the wilderness, there, like Jesus spending 40 days in the desert, we are tempted by so many things, and we could either press on ahead and reach God, or we fall back. As Saint Mother Teresa said when she left her Loreto convent to become the missionaries of charity, the comfort of Loreto tried to entice her back, but she somehow turned her back on the comfort of Loreto and went into the slums, doing best what she knew she could do, and that is to teach children in the slums, and out of which became the big bush of the missionaries of charity. If Mother Teresa had not died as Sister Agnes, she would have remained Sister Agnes throughout her life. This little Albanian girl died to herself and forego her marriage, children, and became Sister Agnes of the Loreto Sisters. And Sister Agnes died to herself and then became Mother Teresa. In a similar way, we've also got to die ourselves, like a single grain of wheat which falls to the ground and dies, and then becomes a great harvest. She must have seen Saint Mary of the Angels from Assisi. At that time, it probably would have been very wooded, and the Portinicula would have been very small, and it may not have been visible to the eye, but her heart must have been beating very fast when she knew that she was going to go there. But Jesus was waiting for her, and Saint Francis was waiting for her too there. And the heart of Jesus must have been pounding very hard. He must have been having palpitations. and been waiting for her there. This is Assisi, and the city walls 800 years old, and she must have seen the same view in front of her. And I wonder if she ever did turn and look back and thought of the things that she was leaving behind. But she must have had the grace of God built up over the years, and she turned her back towards it, focused her heart and mind on God, and then took decisive steps to be on her way to meet St. Francis, to be consecrated to God. This is on the way towards the Portinicula to St. Mary of the Angels. The church was there since 400 AD, small and dilapidated, belonging to the Benedictines, and it was one of the many churches that St. Francis repaired with his own hands. He called it a piece of heaven and earth, and if we want to experience such a place, we must all come to the little church of the Portinicula at just on the plains of Assisi. She must have stopped at many of these small